Buongiorno, Professor Askren here, University of South Florida, College of Hospitality in Sarasota. I'm actually in Volterra, Italy right now, and I wanted to just say hi. I'm at the wonderful learning center called CF. It's in Volterra, Italy. We're just south of Florence, and I wanted to kind of get right into a discussion on agriculture and geography, specifically of Italy and how that influences what Italians eat, what ingredients they use, why they eat what they eat. And it's pretty obvious. I'm going to literally walk down about a quarter mile here, and we'll be able to see the Apennine Mountains ahead, the Alps further back, and some of the beautiful mountains in Tuscany. And we'll be able to show right away kind of what creates those village-to-village recipes and why Italians eat what they eat. So let's get going. All right, so I just started my walk down. I'm probably a couple hundred yards south of our campus in Volterra here. If you go the other way, you'll go to Volterra. But I'm about to get to a point where I can show you very easily the valleys and the mountains, and some of the pinched valleys and the raised land, and really how it really affects the cuisine that Italians have. And there's no other country like it. And there's reasons for that geographically. I mean, no other country possesses a type of cuisine that's broken up into so many different divisions, if you think about it. So it's fascinating. You might have read this in your textbook, or you probably knew this before, maybe when you were in school, hearing about this individualism or particularism that happens in Italy. And again, that's also connected to geography. But what we're talking about there is towns and villages, wanting to rule over their own area and having pride in their culture, and maybe separating themselves from the next village or town. There's a lot of that going on in Italy, and then when we get into Roman rule, it's only reinforced. You have the city of Rome coming to power and ruling over Italy, and of course even larger areas of land. And so what's going on then is you actually have that reinforced, where you have villages that are actually allowed to keep their own culture. The Romans had a fantastic system of controlling and ruling over large areas, but they kind of left the villages and towns to kind of do their own thing. And so those other villages and towns kept their culture, which was wonderful, and that kind of certainly connects to cuisine as well. But we have that going on, the city-state, kind of the pride in where you live, and of course, even these towns close to and next to Rome, they saw Rome as this brand, and they were proud to be a part of Rome, and often mimicked much of what Rome did in Rome. So we had that going on. All right, so I'm almost at the spot. I haven't walked very far again, but I'm almost at the spot that I'm going to show you. It's pretty obvious. We can actually look on both sides and see a couple different sets of mountains, but all of Italy is mountainous. There's really no other country like that. Whether you're going from region to region, there's 20 of them, 20 regions of Italy. If you don't know that, there's sub-region, there's different provinces, and even inside a province, certainly a region, you'll have different pockets, almost like boxed-in culture, where you'll have certain recipes that are cooked there mainly, and certainly a variety of ingredients. But it's interesting how these little pockets kind of have their own culture. One way to understand Italian cuisine is to compare it to French cuisine, right? I was talking to a student the other day about this, and if you kind of compare and contrast French and Italian cuisine, it really helps understand Italian, of course, and vice versa. Think about the consistency of output, or if you're making a recipe, a lot of French recipes are a little more subtle flavors, sometimes a lot more ingredients than a typical recipe in Italian cuisine. But if you have French cuisine, subtle flavors, fantastic technique, of course, high quality ingredients. But sometimes there's a lot more forgiveness when you're cooking French cuisine. And I mean, not so much with the technique, but if you have inferior ingredients, coming up on a beautiful saddle here. But if you have inferior ingredients, a lot of times, because there's other ingredients in the French recipe, you can kind of get away with it sometimes. Whereas in Italian cuisine, if you think about it, if you're just making this, and again, Italian's known for recipes that are just 3 ingredients. If you're making a pomodoro sauce or some kind of tomato based sauce, if you have inferior tomatoes, it's going to be a disastrous sauce. You're not going to have a good sauce. So that's one way to kind of define the two there. Also, with if you ask a French chef or somebody who's trained in French cuisine, if you ask them to make a béarnaise sauce, wait till this car passes. If you ask them to make a béarnaise sauce, you're going to get the same béarnaise sauce whether it's made in one country to the next. Because chefs that know French technique, they're trained, and there's specific ways to make that béarnaise, and it's hopefully always going to taste the same around the world. Not so much with Italian cuisine in the Italian kitchen. A basic pomodoro sauce or some kind of tomato-based sauce, it's going to vary from valley to valley, from village to village, from town to town. Okay, which is a major difference, and that's because of that. That's because of that individualism, that particularism that we talked about earlier. So again, some similarities certainly between French and Italian cuisine, but there's differences as well.
Yeah, okay, so do you see that? This is just, I'm on the saddle here, and I can pan over to the other side, but you're looking down into this valley here, and you can see, that's in the background there, you kind of see some Tuscan mountains. Okay, we're actually facing south here, the camera here, and you can see some of the mountains there, and behind me, we'll be able to see the edge of the Apennine Mountains, and then of course, hopefully, I think it's clear enough, you can probably definitely see the Alps. I just happen to be standing next to olive trees here. Look at these beautiful olive trees. I'm going to zoom in on some of the baby olives there. Obviously not quite big enough, but this is just surrounded by olive trees, of course, vines, vines from different varietals. Sangiovese, obviously one of the more popular vines in Italy. But if you look down there, you can see kind of what I'm talking about there. This is throughout Italy. And again, just this road alone, when I'm walking along this road, when I get to the other side, around a corner, there's another valley. Okay, so just multi-pocketed areas within an actual province. We're not even talking about a region. And again, there's 20 regions of Italy, and 15 out of, so there's 20 regions in Italy. The class that I'm here with, the study abroad class, or students, I'm making them memorize and know where to find all the different regions. There's 20 of them. But if you think about it, if you look at a map, 15 out of 20 of those regions touch the ocean, touch the water. And of course, there's the Po River, there's some Tiber River, and the Arno, and there's all kinds of other rivers too. So every region, if it's not close to the water, or if it's not touching the water or the sea, it's close to some water source. And even the 5 regions that aren't, mainly in the north, Umbria is kind of the center, and then there's the other 4 regions on the north. There's the other regions on the north that aren't touching any ocean, but again, they're close to water. And actually, if you look at all 20 regions, any region you pick, no region is more than 150 miles away from water. So that certainly affects what they eat. So from where I was last standing, where I showed you the olive tree, I just walked up a little bit, maybe a couple hundred yards, and then I just panned to the right on the other side, and you see another little valley here. You see that? So this is typical throughout Italy.